Here with Myron Bradbury, head coach of Concordia Wrestling, to preview the 2021-22 season, coming fast approaching. As we record this, I know you've had a little time to get comfortable in this role, but you basically got here kind of at the start of the semester. What were some of your first impressions of Concordia as a whole?
Pretty campus, very helpful people. I think I'll probably get a lot of, this will frustrate a lot of people, but the Midwest nice, I think, is way more authentic than Southern hospitality. So that was enjoyable and pleasant and made for an easy transition, moving 800 miles away from home. But yeah, first impression was just a lot of helpful people, a lot of nice facilities, very pretty place, and a good place to get started.
You're going to have to be careful with who watches this video now.
Yeah.
Well,
burning bridges, maybe.
Certainly you came from a program that had a lot of success at Lindsey Wilson. What was it that you were able to do there? And I know with a head coach too that had success, but what made that program able to have that success?
Honestly, I think it was a great dual effort. I think my old mentor, Coach Ruff, he's the head coach at Cumberland's now. He had so much wisdom and insight. I mean, he had so many years on me. And so he brought a lot of wisdom and insight to it, and I just tried my hardest to pour my heart out into that program and put all my energy into it. If you ask me, it was a great dual effort. I really just tried to be energy for what he was sculpting, and I think that was a lot of it. Not many things will change in the aspect of like what the fundamental beliefs were. I think we're very similar in that regard, and I'm excited to bring that here. But I think, just good teamwork, good team effort, and a lot of focusing on fundamental and building relationships.
Why was now the right moment for you to be a head coach, and what kind of prepared you for this moment?
That one, I will. Why was now the right moment? Honestly, I wish there was a better way to go into detail about it, but I honestly just felt like this was God's guidance. I think everything happens for a reason, and I've never been more confident in my faith and spirituality than I have been recently, especially of the past, probably 8 months, 9 months maybe. And I just think this was what needed to happen to continue that growth and keep me on that plan, and to even strengthen my faith and relationship with God. And I think this is a great chance to help give back what I've learned through that process with my athletes here, and I think this is a great place to do that. Very cultivating place to do that.
This program, I believe, has 4 captains, right? Isaiah Burks, T.J. Huber, Jacob Tejas, Mario Waibara. How have they kind of helped make the process a little bit smoother for you too, being guys that at least have been here for a year?
For very obvious reasons. I mean, they're just a big transition for communication. Not transition, what's the word? Middlemen. Either way, they help that communication barrier. They help break that, and they're an extension of the coaching staff, no doubt. I've told the team that. The team knows very well that if it's coming from the captains, it's coming from the coaches. So just helping that we have meetings with them once a week so that they know where I'm at, and they kind of get the game plan for the week ahead, just to help make everything go smooth, because I know that they'll have intricacies in those relationships that I haven't had the time to develop and build. So it's good to have that extension, into the program, and good to build those relationships, I think, from top down in terms of the tree, at least for now. And it's interesting, I've thought about this too, that captain dynamic is interesting. You got 2 underclassmen and 2 upperclassmen. on the captain role, and that's voted on by the team. I didn't pick that. The team chose them as the leaders. So that's interesting to me and something I've thought on, but it's just, I think it creates a good balanced dynamic.
Well, certainly Mario is someone people know of that have followed this program, an All-American last year. What have you observed from him that's impressed you most so far?
All of this up here came yesterday. He's strong as nails. That's number one, what I've observed. Number two, he really is like, he's the poster child. He does everything right. He works hard in the room. He gives extra effort. Has good grades, community service. Just all around does everything right. Is a very, very good face of the program. I think any coach would want 10 Marios, and you get 12, and then anybody would want 12 Marios. He just really is total package kind of student athlete.
And wanted to touch a little bit too on Jacob Tejas, who also was at the national tournament last year and was a GPAC heavyweight champion. What have you seen from him in his development?
He is in. Will be how honest do I be here? He's in that perfect stage of growth right now where he's learning how to think deeply and critically and how to reflect. And so he might be focusing too much on certain things and therefore negating some other areas. So right now that's where we're at with him. But it's good, it's healthy because he's in that development process. And he's still a great leader. He brings a very good personality to that kind of leadership structure. He can lighten it up and have fun with it. And he kind of brings that swag and that flavor to it. Which is good. It's necessary. Like I said, it creates the balance.
Well, when you take over a new program for you like this, what were some of the things that you kind of really wanted to establish during the preseason right now?
Fundamental skill development. That's kind of the number one thing in my brain. We got a young team, and then we got a few old guys. Number one thing on my brain is let's get skill development going. Let's learn fundamentals of wrestling and go from there. And I use them old guys to teach the tidbits and the details in between along the way. We have a lot of guys coming in every morning for extra work. That's been great to help establish that, because they come in and get extra work and really polish up what we work on in practice, and then they dish it back out to the guys. And so it's good communication to say, look, here's what we're doing and why we're doing it. Really, that's been my main focus. My number two focus is we got to get in shape. We compete in 2 weeks, so we got to start focusing on that aspect too, stretching our lungs and getting our breathing capacity big.
Well, you spent a lot of time in the state of Kentucky, obviously where you're from. What have you noticed maybe about the appetite for the support for wrestling kind of in this part of the country?
It's bigger. To be general about it, it's just I think on the campus I was at before, I think the wrestling team are the only people that knew about wrestling. The wrestling coaches and the wrestling roster and the managers there were the only people on campus that knew about wrestling and maybe had a deep concerning passion for wrestling. And that's not true. The dean of students and the assistant dean of students also have care and concern and knowledge of wrestling. And administration was supportive, but for example, in my interview here, everybody I shook hands with was like, "Oh, I wrestled in high school." Really? That doesn't happen in Kentucky. So that was exciting for me. And then on my first BAM luncheon, on my introductory luncheon for that, I met one of the coaches who was one of the original coaches. So he's still sticking around and going to those things. And you just don't see those generations of coaching back in Kentucky. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what it brings to the table in terms of fan support for our dual meets. I think it'll elevate that, enhance it.
Well, last year was a young team. I think you may have a little bit of that dynamic this year too. But what have you seen that says that maybe this team will be a little bit improved, possibly from where Concordia was last season?
Grit. Physical toughness. I think that's part of fundamental skill development. I think that's absolutely one of those skills, is being physically and mentally tough. I think we're going to be able to enhance that on a more acute note. They're a very gritty team coming into it, which is a blessing. It's way harder to teach toughness than it is skill. But so they have a very, very good base of that, and that's all props to the previous coaching staff. Like they did well at building that. I think we can touch a little more acutely on that, and maybe tune it up, get more focused in. Is a way of saying it too, but I think that's going to add to a lot, be a big recipe for us.
How do you talk about goals, maybe when you're still kind of getting used to everybody here? Do you talk about team goals, or do you kind of go through that on more of an individual basis with your guys, and how has that worked?
The NAI is interesting because there's 10 starting weights in wrestling, and you get to take 2 extra to your postseason in hopes of qualifying 12. So goals in the sense of, if you have 12 wrestlers that are absolutely doing their part to achieve high goals, then the team thing will take care of itself. And so actually what I told to the team in the team meeting was that goals are your own, expectations are your own, and I have my own set of expectations, but it's all about work ethic and the time you put in and the attitude and your effort and all the cliches and generic stuff. But in a sport like wrestling, it's very, very apparent to see what a kid's goals are. You really shouldn't have to ask him. You'll be able to tell by the effort and the work he's given. Is he coming extra? Is he pouring his heart out here in practice? Do you have to ask him to pick it up? Most of the time you're gonna, but when do you have to ask him to pick it up? When you expect to or before. Things like that. And I've told them that, so they know that. And we've had to go over it a few times as well. They can't hide from it. If their goals are to skate by, it'll be very obvious. If their goals are to succeed and exceed, it'll be very obvious. And I think if we have a roster full of guys trying to exceed and develop themselves, I think it's a no-brainer. We'll have team success.
Last thing, I'm not sure how often you had ever been in Nebraska before this job, but is there anything that surprised you about life in Nebraska so far?
The food is good. The food is real good. The weather's pretty mild so far, knock on wood. I'm holding on real tight for winter. We'll see what it brings. But so far it's been dry, mild, predictable weather. I don't know if I was so ready for so much predictability. But it's nice. It's a nice change. It's enjoyable. It's a small rural town where I come from. It's a small rural town here. Very comparable. Honestly, not much change in that regard. Other than the accents are different. Yeah, there's not much of an accent here.
Right.
Yeah.